my purse on stage. You can't trust anybody around here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, water. All right. Very important to stay hydrated.
So we have a tradition here. We give golden thumbs, and these were years ago. Roger did a cast of his thumb to have thumbs made for some other reason, but they ended up being the golden thumbs, and you've gotten thumbs up and 2 thumbs up, as you saw it.
Lucky I still have my thumbs. Very apropos for this movie.
Right. Okay. So, this is yours. This is for Gina.
Gina, congratulations. Thank you. This is the most beautiful award.
You two stand together and let them get your.
Is someone saying, oh, this is the worst angle. I'll hold it here to block my double chin.
Oh, yeah, go in.
Is it good? Okay, he says it's good. He's like, I'm only going to take one picture from this angle because I got some from before.
See this, Jen? It's like, oh, what? One double chin.
Okay, and we'll take them backstage.
Thank you so much.
Oh, they're so great.
They're beautiful. I wish everybody receives a Golden Thumbs Up trophy sometime in their life because this is a really fabulous feeling.
They've gotten many ones.
Okay.
Not
Thank you.
these.
Chocolate, chocolate ones, small.
And I'm going to bring out to
Thank you.
do the Q&A.
Okay.
If you take a seat. Yes. I'd like to bring some critics that some of you locally may know. They are graduates of Northwestern University and Columbia College. They are broadcast, TV and radio, News Gazette, and other platforms, Pamela Powell and Chuck Kablinski.
Where should we sit?
Well,
Ladies. So many things to
Chuck,
talk
are
about
we
here.
in the right light? Because we are the stars and we want to be in the best light. Who's in the best light?
I don't
yeah,
think this
you
is the right
well,
They
I'm
way.
gonna
didn't tell us where to sit, so we just sat down. But
I'm going to scoot over, so in case you guys want to move towards us, that's fine by me.
We're
I
okay.
feel like a French fry under the heat lamps. Am I in good light? Jazz, am I in good light?
Yeah, Jennifer, don't worry about your beautiful light.
well, I have one question, because you two had such good chemistry, as I noticed in person, but also in this movie. Had you ever met before you did this role? Did you know each other?
No, we met when they were casting it, and I think they kind of told us both the same thing. I mean, I knew I was pretty specific about, like, I have to make sure it's a good combination, and, you know, I guess they said the same thing to Jennifer, and as soon as I met Jennifer, and, and she started talking, and then she walked away, and I watched her, I'm like, okay, like, that's it. Like, she was just so perfect and great, and I just loved her right away.
I tried not to interrupt Gina at our first meeting because I thought that probably wouldn't go over too well. But when I met her, first of all, I wanted to be Corky because when I auditioned for it, I auditioned for Corky. And then they said, well, we have this girl, Gina, we think she would be a really fabulous Corky. And I thought, well, not as good of a Corky as me. But they said, just meet her. She's open to being Corky or being Violet. And I was like, well, okay, but, I really want to play Corky. I'm, tired of being the pretty one. I don't want to be the boobily one, the high heels.
Femme fatale.
I just want to be the kick-ass one that, punches Joey in the face. I mean, isn't that what we all want?
You get to shoot him.
So I meet Gina.
She shoots.
Well, I shoot him, but hand-to-hand combat is so much more sexy. Every time Gina got another big bruise on her face, I felt a little more turned on. Every time she'd make a smart-ass remark, he would knock her out. I'd be like, ooh, nice, sexy. It's funny because every time we see the movie, when Gina's coming, because we've seen it a few times, when she's coming to get me, she goes, I'm coming to rescue you, Jennifer. Don't worry, I'm coming to get you.
No,
she's
sorry
so
for the
plucky.
people sitting behind us because they kept making comments.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, look at this. We haven't seen it in a long time.
Right.
I mean, I haven't seen it in a long time.
It's so fabulous to see it in a theater again. It's really,
Well, yeah. And also, I remember the sound, the way they did the sound is so fantastic, and so you really hear it on the big screen.
Wachowskis are great with sound, and we have a projectionist. His name is James Bond. That's his real name. And he's
Wow.
great. I noticed sound last night, and I noticed the sound tonight.
Yeah, the sound is good.
Well, I'm going to let Chuck or Pamela ask a question.
I hate to say this, but this is sex and sexual tension is just all over this movie. And when you read the script, or read any script with scenes of that nature, obviously it must give you pause. What was it that finally convinced you both, hey, we're going to be taken care of here, this is going to be done in a respectful manner?
It wasn't-
I mean, you didn't even work with these guys before. How did you get that trust?
I have to be honest, I mean, I don't know how you felt about this, but on page, and I'm not tooting our own horns, but on page it wasn't as sexy as it was once we did it. But it's true, it's like you read it, it was like they finally have sex, but the way it was like the four of us were having sex because a wall would come up and come down. It was so technical, and they know every single shot that...
The thing is, when people write sex scenes, when it's men in Hollywood, usually it's like 3 pages of porn, and you're like, oh my God. But when we read this script, it was basically, you have a bed somewhere, and then it was kind of like
They have sex.
they're doing it, So
It wasn't...
we weren't that alarmed, but on the day, well, first of all, the first day that I had to kiss Gina, or she had to kiss me, not had to. The first day I got to kiss Gina,
We were paid, Jen.
she shows
got
up. She
money.
shows up in my trailer, and she's like, "I have tequila." I was like,
Well, I knew that you were, I
Yeah.
knew Jennifer was nervous, and so it was like a date, so I brought her tequila and chocolate. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be fine.
I was like, she brings me snacks and alcohol. The story of my dating life, really. Sure, anything.
I thought it was the right thing to do.
Yes, but they told us very specifically how they were going to shoot it because this movie was a Dina De Laurentiis movie. And, a lot of times he sends them off to Italy to add extra boobs and bottoms and stuff. And we didn't want that to happen, so they decided to film it in one long, continuous shot. And I think we did about, we're so good, we were good in every single shot. But the Wachowskis are like, well, we need a little more sweat. And really, this is why it was unsexy, because I think it was Larry was yelling through a megaphone because he was telling what part of us was on the camera. So he'd say, boob, and she would squeeze my boob. And then he'd say,
Like toes, feet.
and then she
It
would
was
have
the
to
most
curl her toes.
unsexy thing to
Yeah.
film,
And then
really.
he'd yell, come, and then she'd bite on my fingers. And they were
It was very technical,
we're like, oh my
very,
God,
very
we have to do it again. It's like when you have a really athletic boyfriend, you're like, I'm spent. And he's like, I don't care. One more time. And,
Too much information.
and then also, too, this is the myth of the closed set. They were like, okay, it's going to be very private. It's a closed set. And we're like, fabulous, because, Gina and I like to make out in private. And then we found there was monitors all on the other side of the closed set. There were all these monitors, and everybody had something to do on the set today. They were all, did you know that?
I didn't know
They
that.
were all clustered around the monitors because everyone was very concerned at how we were going to film this very complicated
But
shot.
you know what? Can I say? I thought the interesting thing about this, and I don't mean to get political or anything, but it's it was a one-take shot, right? And then the one that we all watched, and we're like,
It was perfect.
oh my God, this is the one. It was really like the two of us had really fallen in love, and the two women were really making love. You didn't say any part of our body, but there was just an intensity between the two of us. And of course, when the rating system saw that, they're like, oh, no, you can't use that. If you use that, it's going to be NC-17.
They said, the problem is, it looks like they're really doing it. And
But
the
it wasn't
Wachowskis
that.
They go, well, let me get this straight. Let me tell my story, and then you can tell your version. They go, you mean if we had two actresses that weren't as good that we would, not get NC-17 and they were embarrassed? And they said, yeah, probably. But here's the shot that you guys didn't see. And when we got it, because we said, this is it, we have it, we didn't see any reason to do another one because, money, very, very low budget. We were like, okay, we got it. Let's save that film for another shot. But in that scene, you see a little bit of Gina's breasts, but they're very elegant, so it wasn't that pornographic because, she's lying on her back. I think you saw one of them. Yes. And then you saw my hand, my long fingernails, like on her crotch, which is like, it's a hand. Basically, you don't see any of her genitalia at all. It's just the hand, and I flex my fingers just a little bit because I'm a fabulous actress. And then the camera goes around a little more, and then, she comes in because she's a fabulous actress too. But they said, no hand. You cannot see the hand. So there was one other shot, and they were sort of scratching their head that I felt was a lot more pornographic. My boob suddenly falls into frame, like boom, 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 boom. And instead of one breast, you had three. You had two of hers and one of mine, but mine was like really angly for camera time. Didn't it almost like hit you in the face?
No, but I think you're missing the point, though. The point I'm trying to...
But Gina didn't like that shot because she said, I curled my toes too much. She said I was overacting with my toes.
That was a joke.
That was one shot. She didn't like that.
No, but can I just make my point?
Yes.
The point is this, but for the rating system, if there was a scene where they were like really having sex, and it was like, pardon my French, like a fucking scene and kind of hardcore, as opposed to like these two women really falling in love.
Like two lotus blossoms.
That was okay, which I thought was kind of really
the
horrible.
Wachowskis said it's homophobia, plain and simple. And the thing that they kept doing, because they're so funny, where are they from? Iowa or Ohio or someplace?
Chicago.
Chicago, okay.
It's close.
Okay. So, but they said that they were really playing up the, like, I'm a simple farm boy from Chicago, I guess. So they said they kept going in, the ratings board kept saying you have to make more cuts. And they said they would go in with the film under their arm, but they hadn't made any more cuts. And they would go back and they would go, oh, that's much better. They did this about 3 or 4 times. And they also did a thing, you're only supposed to go back to them a couple times, but they were like, oh, we don't know, we're from Chicago. So that's what they did. They were very clever.
So that's the answer to your question.
That's the answer to the question. Also,
a short answer.
The shot that you see, the bathroom door was open more, and we had a lot more sweat on us, so it looked steamier than the beautiful, elegant lotus blossom love scene that we really enjoyed. But that scene is nowhere to be seen. Maybe they'll do it in the 25th anniversary, or they'll put it in the deleted scene. Maybe they'll I think they should include all 8 takes. I think that would really sell the 25th anniversary DVD, all 8 takes.
Do you know?
I think the audience agrees.
Do you know if there is a plan to do a director's cut of this for the 25th?
I don't know. I haven't heard of any. I mean,
the Wachowskis made this movie so they could make Matrix, and then they were... No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. They love this movie.
Why? I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is their cut. I mean, I think we all preferred that other scene, but at this point,
it's really almost a perfect film. Like when we went in for rehearsal, me and Joey and Gina are all really obnoxious. I don't know if you can tell. And we were like, I don't want to say that. Can I say this instead? And the Wachowskis would go, well, they talk really slow, so, well, you could, but on page 79, there's a line that directly references this line, which won't make sense if you take it out, but if you want to take it out, you're the actor. So after asking this a bunch of times, we just realized it was like a house of cards. It was such a finely constructed script. The only person that was allowed to ad-lib was Joey. And I was very mad when I saw it, because I said, how come I had to say everything word for word, and you let Joey say whatever the fuck popped into his head?
Because it was those scenes that helped him during the scenes.
No, Larry said, well, Joey never knew his lines. He had to say something.
Well, that too.
Looking back, and you referenced this is 23 years ago, and lesbian relationships were in a different perspective then than they are now. From your point of view, seeing this 23 years ago, and now seeing it tonight or seeing it recently, how do you view the film differently through your older, wiser eyes?
Gina's really good at these kind of questions. Go on. Gina, you have the floor. I'm not going to interrupt.
Well,
Gina did lots of research for this film. I swear to God, she was in San Francisco
I like
with
how she's
Susie
not gonna
Bright,
interrupt me.
going around to all the gay bars, trying out her character's line. She'd come in, she'd be like, that line doesn't work. I tried it on a girl last night, and I didn't get any reaction.
okay, Jennifer, now you're just like making things up.
No,
Okay. Anyway, let me answer the question.
Yes.
I think it's interesting. The other day, I've been working on this show, Riverdale, which is very, thank you. I'm just kind of like popping in and popping out. But it's very politically correct in today's world where there's lesbians and there's gay guys and there's mixed relationships, and I mean they do everything and with no big deal. And one of the girls she's 20 years old, and they play the girlfriends in the movie, and I was kind of making a joke. I said, hey, because I won't even get into this. Like, they have millions of Instagram followers, and everyone's like trying to get their picture with them. And I'm like, honestly, I could give a shit. Although it would be nice because then it would like oost everything up. But like, whatever, that's a different story. But I said, hey, like, we should take a picture, like, the old lesbian, the young lesbians, like, and she's like, oh yeah, like, I heard about Bound, like, Roberto, who's the creator, was like so interested. He was so excited that you were doing this. I mean, the first episode, they called it Bound, even though it didn't really reference it, there's secret references everywhere. And she said, yeah, no, I've never really heard it. I mean, I heard about it, but I've never seen it. And I was like, oh my God, like, and you're playing a lesbian, like, child, you better do your research. But I said, when we did this, we were told that it would hurt our careers. I was told it would, ruin my career. And, it was coming after Showgirls. And I was like, well, you hadn't seen Showgirls yet. Trust me, I should do this. No, just kidding. But, not really. But the thing is, it was a taboo thing to do then. And now it's like, it gives you Instagram followers, it gives you ratings, it makes more money, you win Oscars, whatever. So that's a big difference.
People don't understand how far the LGBT community has come being portrayed in films. Back when we were doing this, the Wachowskis said, you would not believe how many actresses refused to come in and read for this. And I thought,
Thank
two
God
of the
for us.
best written female parts that I've ever read in my entire life, people didn't want to come in and read. And then, of course, I was like, names, give me names. And they
Don't
gave
name the
me
names. Don't say the names.
I don't remember, but I remember I was astonished because there was a lot of my peers that I thought would be like trampling me, fighting me tooth and nail for the part. But they said no, because back then they didn't have a lot of, when you had films with lesbian themes, it was like Red Shoe Diaries. It was very titillating. It was sort of softcore porn, a lot of these films. And Gina and I were very concerned that we did not want it to be one of those types of films, but the script was so amazing. The Wachowskis were brilliant. And then when I met Gina, I was like, here's a girl I can trust. And I loved working with her in the nude scene because, when you're working with a guy, you always want to be like hot, even though you're acting and everyone's standing around watching. But with Gina, I'd be like, can you hold my breast up and make it look a little plumper?
I'm like, yeah, let's do this. We kind of, you say all the things that you can't really say.
I'd be like,
to the
can
guy
you
who felt
put your
weird.
other hand on my thigh to cover up my cellulite? And she's like, sure, Chan. So
We looked after each other.
we were a team. We looked after each other. And in between takes, we'd eat donuts and talk about the shoe sale at Barney's.
And we'd laugh, and they'd be like, okay, girls, let's go.
Girls,
Because we were
stop
like,
giggling.
Yeah,
That's
we talked a lot.
And then when I saw it, the first time I saw it, I was struck at how brilliant we were. And then when I saw it just now, I was struck at how brilliant Joey was. I was like, he should have gotten an Oscar nomination. We were really lucky to have Joey. At the time, we didn't understand how lucky we were to have Joey because, we had a very sort of brotherly, sisterly relationship with him. And he was
We were
always
lucky.
trying to drop a towel and show his butt. And the Wachowskis would yell at him. They'd be like, Joey, why'd you do that? You ruined the take. And he'd be like, I want to be naked. He wanted to be naked, too. And then he'd be like, hey, how about we write a scene where Caesar comes home and he finds the two girls in bed and he joins them? And the Wachowskis are like,
All right, let him ask another
Joey,
question.
okay.
Let him. I got to rein her in some.
Over the years, this thing has gained a cult reputation, has a cult following. Any idea why that is the case? Why it has, had this extra life, and that we're still talking about it almost 25 years later?
Well, it was the first of its kind, and it happened to be an incredible film.
And after that, there were a lot of films where a lot of independent films, then it became a staple that there was always a lesbian relationship. And then on Friends, they're like, Jennifer Aniston kisses Winona Ryder, tune in, and soap operas and everything. But back then, it was very rare. It was sort of up. The thing I think that was really important about it is that they were two women that were in love, that were trying to rip off the mob, but they were two people that were in love that happened to be women. One little story, very short. The Wachowskis had a relationship with Warner Brothers, so they went to Warner Brothers with the script, and Warner Brothers said, if you make Corky a man, we'll give you $10 million. And they said, well, but Corky's a woman. And they very sadly, they walked out of the golden gates of Warner Brothers with their script under their hand, and they ended up at Dina De Laurentiis' office. And Dina goes, okay, tell me what your movie is about. Okay, tell me what your movie is about, though. Okay, that's my Italian accent. So they go, well, this girl, Corky, she gets out of jail, and she meets this girl, Violet. They fall in love, and then and he goes, wait a minute, wait. Violet, she is a woman? And they go, yeah. And they go, and Corky, she is also a woman, and they are in love? And they go, yes, but then, and he goes, I love it, I give you $3 million.
How long was this shoot? How many days?
18 days, right? Under $3 million.
I thought it was like 21 days or 22, maybe
You
18.
probably had longer days. You started
maybe-
shooting before I did.
Yeah, I had
And then
21
I spoke
days.
really, really fast in my scenes.
Yeah, I think that some of the...
And when
you
you
know,
were working with the
fighting
Wachowskis, who does do they do a co-directing, or how does that work? What's the...
They co-direct. If one says, I remember they really thought alike. They did everything alike, and one would say one thing, and I'd be like, the other would say the same. Only one time did they each have a different take, and I'm like, great, my take. I get to choose, but it was only one time, which I've never experienced. It was, they started off doing graphic novels, so it was. I remember with some scene, they said, and you have to have your head like this. And I was like, why? And they said, well, because the shot before the Benjamin Franklin shot is going to do this, and you're going to continue the movement. I went, oh, that's fantastic. Okay, great. Like, they thought everything out.
There's so
carefully.
much of that, like when Joey is at Johnny's apartment and he's turning in a circle, like, why? There's a painting on the wall behind him that's a circle, and they were having him sort of replicate that movement. There's a lot of things like that, like when the night is about to start and I stand up, and on the other side of the wall, Corky stands up. There's a lot of symmetry there. But how they co-directed, I felt like I saw them as sort of a double-headed Hydra, and I felt like Larry was a little more, he was more dominant, the dominant head. But they co-directed. They would get together and they would say, okay,
You should say
here's
Lana now. Lara's now Lana.
Larry
Lana.
is
And
Lana.
Anna's now
and
Lily.
Andy is
Lily.
Lily. They transitioned.
And
we
in
love
fact,
them so much.
Lily, sort of an apology, Lily wanted to be here.
We would have loved if she was here.
Yeah.
So
She
But
really wanted to be here.
Lily was very shy, and she was a little afraid of the actors. I don't know why. So they would get together, and they'd talk, and then Larry would come over, and he'd give us a note. Me, it was usually, speak faster, and then he would walk back. But once Larry was mad at us for some reason, and Lily came shuffling over, and me and Joey and Gina were like, oh, here comes Lily. What did we do? Larry's mad. And Lily was looking at the little piece of paper and was so scared, like, I have to talk to the actress. And then she kind of came over and she's like, oh, Larry thinks that you should not overlap your dialogue, and then ran away really fast.
I didn't have a lot of dialogue, so that wasn't to me.
Your notes were probably punch him longer. Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, look cooler.
Yes.
this may sound like, you're an actor, so, but this question, because you come across as a soft, feminine woman. What did you do to have to what did you do, what research did you do to play so tough in this film?
I started, I was coming, it was really right off the tails of, heels of Showgirls, so I had like kind of a month to change my whole vibe, which, you know, I was so girly in that. And so right away, I started boxing, because I felt like my problem was like, I'm like, you know, and I just thought I wanted to be more like, you know, Sugar Ray Robinson, you know, how he's just so, like, cool, and I was more like haggard. And anyway, so I started boxing just to kind of learn a stillness, and then I just watched all, like, Marlon Brando and Monty Cliff, a lot of Marlon Brando, and then I just kind of thought of, like, all the guys I, like, liked when I was younger, and I project all this stuff onto, and, you know, so I just kind of dove into it that way, but the boxing helped a lot.
I have
And
to
Gina
tell you
picked
that
out a lot of her own clothes. Like, she was the one that said, "Oh, I want to wear the tighty whities or the Y fronts or whatever you call them." And I remember she was like, "I want to wear a thumb ring." I remember you saying
No,
that.
the rings were my ideas, but you know,
Yeah.
oh my God, what's her name? Who did the costumes?
The girl that did the costumes,
spacing out.
she was
She's
the one
amazing.
that wore the American Express dress to the
I should know that.
Oscars. But
And she did
as
Priscilla,
an Australian,
Queen of
she
the
did
Desert.
Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
She no that the tank top and that was theirs. I wanted to. I had to pierce my ears because of that scene, but I wanted that top one and the thumb ring. But no, I think that
I remember you
costume
saying
was
you wanted
theirs.
to wear a thumb ring. I
Yeah.
remember you were saying, because you did some research and you said a lot
Yeah.
of the lesbians
I did all
that
the
you met
tattoos, though.
had the thumb.
Roger,
I made all the
Roger
tattoos.
Roger, I guess, interviewed you a few times over the years, or talked to you a few times, interacted with you, and always emphasized how he said that you were smart as a whip. He said that you probably had a lot to, and I said this earlier today, and I'm not going to leave you out, because he said you had to be, you said that you had to be smart as a fox to play someone so dumb. So, all right.
Wait, sorry, what's the question?
It's not a question.
It's
It's
a
just saying that he
compliment.
said that you were smart.
She's so unused to compliments.
Thank you. You know,
Oh,
looking.
I'm just going to say one other
lot are
thing
gonna
about
say.
the costumes, and this was a Wachowski thing. You might not notice, but all the costumes, they wanted to look like an old film noir, were in shades of gray and black until the bloody night starts. And I know the lighting is very dark, but that's when I wear a red dress, and I wear it through to the end of the movie. So that was something that was very specifically planned out. It was very meticulously planned, this movie. I mean, these guys are brilliant. These women, these
We're
siblings
guys
are
now,
brilliant.
now they're women, which is like so interesting. You watch it, the first few things, like I'm out, I want to get out of my body. I mean, it had a whole weirder meaning to me. Not weirder, but like I just thought, this is interesting. I wonder if they were thinking about that then. But, you know, everyone's like, oh, how do you make a lower budget film in, you know, just 21 days? It's like, well, if you have like incredible directors who know exactly what they want to do, it was really like a well-oiled machine. Everyone was great on that. You know, the crew.
First film,
This
right?
is their first film.
First film, yeah.
And they knew exactly, and just like it just really ran, and everyone did such a great job. From, you know, the gaffers, the grips, the costume people, you know, the actors. Just it's a really meticulously well thought out film because they're geniuses.
I remember Bill Pope, the cinematographer, wanted this really dark film stock that was really expensive. And the Wachowskis wanted it too, but they didn't have the budget for it. So he took some other stock and he jury-rigged it to make it look like it was really dark. I know you probably noticed it's a very dark film. But then when I saw The Matrix, I was like, oh, now they have a $60 million budget. Bill got his precious film stock that he wanted so much on Bound. But we were always, they had to go to Dina De Laurentiis and beg him for extra money. Like, they came up with this idea that they wanted, you remember the close-up where I say, Corky, kiss me, and it's just two giant lips, you know, sort of coming in and going out. They kept saying to Dina De Laurentiis, they needed a special camera, and he was like, you know, no, just have him kiss the regular way. And then finally, he was so happy with the way the footage was looking, he gave them the money. And then also, when the mob boss falls over, they wanted him to fall backwards like a mighty oak. And the stunt person goes, he can't do that. And they're like, not even with padding? And they said, no, he'll break. He's an old guy. So they constructed this special lever that I think cost $20,000.
Yeah, it was like what's it called? What's the word? It's like not a. It was like.
I'm acting it out. It goes like this.
It goes.
Here's the old guy, and here's the thing. But they went to they never gave up. They're never like, oh, we have to make do. We're a low-budget movie. They went to him like every day for a very long.
I called them a couple times. They're like, we can't talk. You call him. Call him up and talk to him. I was like, I can't believe you're making me do this. So I'd say, Dino. He's like, oh, Gina, I love you. How are you doing? And I was like, I said, listen, we actually need a little bit more money. I had to do that once. I'm like, I can't believe. They're like, we can't. You got to talk to him. Just talk to him. So they were like,
The first night.
That was such a cool fall. I was wondering
It was
how
a
they
very
did
special,
that.
a special mechanism. Like, whoa.
Not compression.
like,
There's a something
lift.
here, and it goes. And
and it would go.
then, of course, sound effects, too.
I can't remember what the word is. As soon as we leave, of course, I'll
But
remember.
he didn't want Joey. Dina De Laurentiis didn't want him. He kept going, he's a character actor. He wanted Peter Gallagher, and then he wanted Chris McDonald.
They wanted someone else, and Joey said to me, he's like, you have to talk to them. And I went to them, and I was like, because they had already cast it. And I already knew the guy.
Was it Chris McDonald?
I
know Peter Gallagher was offered the part
And-
because he had this idea that Caesar needed to be good looking.
No, but then I told the guys, I said, you have to see this guy. They're like, yeah, but we've already cast it. Just trust me, you have to see it. To this day, I keep saying, Joey, where's my 10%? Because I really went to bat for him, but he was brilliant.
I think Joey is really sexy in this movie. I mean, when we first got the part, we went to dinner at Dina De Laurentiis' house, and we're all really happy. Like, everybody loves each other on the first day. So Dina had this great Italian feast, and he kept bringing out all these plates of food and pasta and stuff, and Dina and I were like, piling it on. And then Joey would reach for it, and Dina De Laurentiis would go, no, that is not for you. And he'd go, this is for you. And a big plate of steamed vegetables came out every single course because he felt like Joey had to lose weight because he felt like, I'm going to make Joey into a leading man. And then Joey was so pleased with how much weight he lost. That's why he kept trying to drop trow, as they call it in the business.
Tell me a little bit about, and we spoke earlier today at the panel for women in film in Hollywood versus independent film. This is an independent film. These are two really strong, powerful women who are smarter than the men, who outsmart everyone else. They're underestimated. Can you tell me a little bit about how roles have changed, or maybe they haven't, through cinema versus mainstream cinema now? Do you feel like they have?
I don't know. Take this, Jen.
Go, Jen.
I wasn't even listening. I was like, I'm going to be really quiet and let Gina talk. And I thought, Gina will take this and run with it. I feel like in the independent arena, they have much more stronger roles for women, at least when I was actively acting. Now all I do is play poker and eat chocolate. But back in the day when I was really actively pursuing roles, all the good parts for women, I remember the time The Last Seduction came out with Linda Fiorentino, which is also a Dina De Laurentiis movie. Very strong woman part. And in major motion pictures, the girl is usually decorative and doesn't have very many lines. And so I think we were very fortunate, Gina and I, that we, at the time that we were coming up, that the major motion picture actresses were leaving the independent films to the not major motion picture actresses, such as ourselves, although Gina was huge coming off of Showgirls, but it hadn't opened up yet when she did Bound.
Yeah, but I bet, listen, there at least this year is like all of a sudden there's Wonder Woman, and now there's the other one, the Brie Larson one. I mean,
right.
I think it's tough because, especially as you get older, because all those, those parts are for 27-year-olds or, and they're younger women. But, I just think, television, cable now seems to be the new independent film, and there's a lot of strong women roles, on that. And I mean, listen, it was always, at least women are trying to get more films made now. It used to be like there's one woman in, and all the guys. And that's why, to me, I was so excited, to play Corky, because I was like, oh, this is like the typical, the hero was always the guy. He gets the girl, he gets the car, he gets the money. It's like, oh, well, this is interesting. you know, and she was like a guy, but it was just still a girl, so.
You know, you write books and you write. Are you writing any scripts or roles for yourself or anything for other women to do?
Well, I can't, yeah, I'm working on something right now, but I don't know. I found it many years ago, 30 years ago, and now I'm in love with it again. And I'm kind of too old to play it, but I really want to produce it. But we'll see. I can't really, it's a kind of a huge sort of thing, which who knows if it gets made. I'd like to write a show for myself. That's kind of the dream. I've written a couple things and sold them, but they were never actually made. So I've got to be smarter about that.
One other thing, in the movie, you were playing
My Jew's harp.
your Jew's harp.
I know, I forgot I played my Jew's harp in this.
Whose idea was that? And you actually, that was
definitely
a talent that
mine.
you have.
I think I am always trying to, you know, I've been playing a Jew's harp since I was 7 years old, and I'm always like, hey guys, like I should play a Jew's harp in this movie. No one ever went for it, and I showed them. They're like, maybe in the jail scene. And if you notice, like I just went like, wah wah wah, like literally like one or maybe two wahs, but at least it got in there. And then it just in that one scene, I just felt like when I was walking, sometimes when I think, I just wanted something in her hand, and so I had it there. But at least they let me, I get like 3 boings out of it all together.
3 boings.
Yeah, Jew's harp is not like a normal instrument. That I was actually surprised when I asked them. They said, okay, you could do it there. I was like, really? It's like,
And
okay.
interestingly enough, there are exactly 3 boings in this movie, too. I was counting the scenes. I was like, yes, there's 3. There was one scene that was cut out because I orgasmed too loudly, I think. They wanted my character to be more subtle. Remember that scene?
Which scene?
They cut it out. It's gone.
Which scene was it?
It was before I said, I see you inside me. Okay, they didn't cut the whole scene,
No,
but
the
it
couch.
started.
They just cut it down.
Yeah, they cut down where I had a very loud, noisy orgasm.
It made you more in control. You were still working. Me.
I was in control.
that's why.
Yeah,
That's-
but I
I
was
think
like,
that's
Gina
why.
got to come on screen, and I did not. I had comus
I
interruptus.
think it's time for questions from the audience.
That's good.
I mean, that was a good cut. That was
Yeah,
good.
Caesar walked in. Damn you, Caesar.
We have
Questions?
microphones, and I think, do we have mics?
I see a hand
Do we
there
have-
in the back. Oh, in the front. Oh, Chaz, why don't you point at people because
To your left.
to the left,
To your left.
to the left, to the left.
Left. Okay.
Hi, I love you both a lot, and I die for you. Anyway, I was just wondering
Thank you,
for
Susan.
Jennifer, because we were talking about how Gina had a lot of inspiration from Marlon Brando and someone else.
Monty Cliff.
And
And there was someone else. I
wondering
think
if
I
there
went
was
to Paul
any
Newman
inspira-
too. Like, why not?
Okay.
I was inspired when I got the part of Violet.
Robert Mitchum. That was the other one I left out.
I was reading about. Look how I just talked right through you. Okay, because you know people are used to stereophonic sound. They can multitask. Okay, so I had been reading about Andy Warhol when I got the part of Violet, and there was a person in the factory, and her name was Ultraviolet, and she dressed in purple. She had violet hair, violet makeup. And I thought that I would do that for my character, except for a little more subtle. And I did not tell the Wachowskis because they would have shot me down. They would have gone, oh, that's dumb. You know, that's not what we thought of. So I just went out. My hair has a violet tint to it. This Chanel nail polish called Vamp came out. It's black, but it has sort of a purple tint to it. And we did all my makeup in sort of violet tones. So that's about all preparation I did. Yes, I think that's pretty much what I did. Every time I was trying to do something very creative, once I had a scene with Joey where we were yelling at each other, I thought, because I kept thinking, here's where Violet will reveal like what makes her tick, and they didn't want that. For example, when everyone's shooting each other and I was underneath the bar, I thought, great. Here's where I'll be sobbing hysterically because I'm remembering when I was a child and my mother killed my father and I'm having flashbacks. And they leave me on the bar and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm acting. They're like, no, you caused this. You're happy it's happening. I said, I am? They said, yes, you're just standing behind the bar waiting for it to be over. I was like, when do I get to act? They go, you're just waiting. And then there was another scene with Joey where I'm leaving. And I felt like we were so dramatic and we were overlapping. I'm like, I'm out of here. And I thought, oh, my rage and my hatred at Caesar is going to finally come out. Like, yes, I can't stand you. And he started screaming too. They made us reshoot it. They said, yeah, it sounded like a couple of fishwives. So every time I tried to act, I got shot down. So I honestly think a lot of that performance that you see is the Wachowskis. It's their vision. Like I said, I wanted to be quirky. I didn't want to be violent. And I really thought that I was this close to becoming
You're selling
quirky.
yourself short, Jen.
Yes,
you're
but-
so incredible in it, and you're acting. You're not really like listen, you're like, oh, I'm Violet's real quiet and like that. It was main controlled. You're
Pause
like
for
controlled.
compliment. Thank you.
It
Thank
was
you,
very-
Tina. I love her. She's the best. She's the best. She's the best.
That's true.
But anyway, the Wachowskis said they never had me in mind for Violet. For Corky, they said it was always Gina, and they were just stringing me along until I could do their bidding. And so they always get their way. They did on that
and
movie
it looks
anyway.
like they made a good, it looks like you both played the roles that you were meant for. Yeah, meant to
Yes.
play, yeah.
All right, got a
Question?
question here to your right.
To the right, right there.
Yes, I think you both nailed it. But I have a question for Gina about that musical, which I loved, of Darkman County. What happened? The brothers, it just disappeared.
Oh, the Stephen King musical?
Yes, I read about it. I said, I've got to see it because this is so bizarre. And I loved it, and then it just never went.
Did you saw it out here when we did it?
I saw it in Indiana, the last show.
Oh, in New York?
No, when it was in the Midwest, when it was still
Oh,
playing
yeah,
in the Midwest.
we toured it kind of like a rock show. So we went to City, like for maybe 1 or 2 nights, and then another one. I
know
mean,
you changed a lot throughout.
it changed a lot. By the time we got to New York, which I think was the last one, I mean, listen, I think could have been good. I think the ending should have been rewritten, and then it never got there. It's like the theater god saying, "Don't talk about this." I think it had its run. I think it just didn't. I don't know what happened to it. We didn't do it again. They should rewrite the ending a little bit. I think, in my opinion, So I don't think Stephen wanted to work on it because he's always working on 10 million books and. But it was fun. I really enjoyed singing on John Mellencamp's band, and Stephen King is just like, I love him. But nothing happened with it. Another dream shattered. No, just kidding.
To your left,
Question
up front.
right to the center.
Hi. Thank you both so much for being here. I really enjoyed both of your performances. I'd never seen the movie before. And I love you on Riverdale, by the way. So thank you for that. I was curious, though, because I actually usually don't watch violent movies, and there was a lot of gun violence in this.
It's really violent.
Yes.
We were saying we forgot how
We
violent
forgot
it was.
how violent
like,
it was.
Oh, my God.
But it's so it's just the cinematography is beautiful also when it is violent. But I'm curious because of all the rise in gun violence, what is happening in the film world, and what do you think will happen in terms of how much guns are used? Because like in the UK, or in other countries, guns aren't so predominant, and it seems to
In
me it's
film,
not getting
they're not as predominant
Yeah,
now?
and it seems like it's just getting worse, or I don't know. Is it going to get better? And what do you think about that, or have you heard?
I have no idea, to be honest. I mean, I don't really watch like any movies I've done with guns. Like honestly, I mean, except Face Off because I love Face Off. But I'm not like a big like anytime when the guns were coming out. I mean, when these Clippers came out, I totally forgot about that, which I still can't watch. So I don't know. I mean, I haven't noticed. I've just been doing Riverdale. It's not. Oh, there are a few guns on that show. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. You don't see people smoking as much, I've noticed, anymore.
I did realize that when we were, both smoke. Were you smoking in the movie? Okay.
I smoked in it.
Yes. I mean, they really. But the thing is, I feel like people go to the movies for escapism, and in a weird way, violence is escapism. It's you get to see people do things.
Not anymore. There's too much of it. It's like you want to escape from that.
I don't know.
right?
I mean, I love Quentin Tarantino movies. I like to see westerns where, I mean, I enjoy those types of movies, but I would never want to see anybody be shot in real life. And I do believe 100% that there should be gun control in the United States. People probably come after me for that, but it really is a fact that in other countries, a lot of other countries where they have gun control, the deaths by gunfire is a lot lower number. So
I mean, I think it's interesting. I don't know if it's connected or not, but you think of all the movies coming out now, or like the Marvel films, and there's superpowers and superheroes. So there's not as many guns. It's more like weird fantasy. Maybe I'm just not watching the gun movies. I don't know.
You're right. It's deliberate. It's an intentional thing, not to show as many guns in movies. It is going sort of the way of smoking, where it's not as cool, So you're right.
Except listen, I'm all totally for gun control, and I'll just throw this out. But I think that it's like when hip hop music, they're like, oh, this is causing violence. I'm sorry, I think that's bullshit. It's like Dick Cavett had the great line of like, I saw this comedy going on in the street the other day. Does that mean like there's gonna be more comedy going on? Like, I just think it's.
this
There's
is a
movies
mafia
and
movie.
there's
You have to have
TVs.
guns in a mafia movie, right?
But I don't know. Maybe if it helps, then there shouldn't be as many.
No,
Yes.
I disagree.
I don't know.
I think most people can tell the difference between a movie and real life, you
would
know?
hope so.
So I really feel like The Godfather saga is some of the greatest movies ever made, and I really don't think they would be as good without the guns. I mean, you got to have guns in the movies.
Yeah.
But you know what we were talking about this afternoon, women's films, this morning, oddly, women's films, there's not as many guns. Women's films are more personal stories, and I think if we have perhaps more women's stories and women directors, there'll be less guns. But Hollywood is run by men, and men like guns. They like guns and hot chicks. So as long as Hollywood is run by men, there's going to be hot chicks and guns. Well said. Hey, our movie is Hot Chicks and Guns.
Yes, it is.
Question back there.
Question in the balcony to your left.
Balcony left. Okay.
Hi, thank you guys for, this is my fifth time seeing this movie. It still packs a punch every time I see it. I have a question about, did you guys rehearse these scenes? I asked this question because the quiet seduction that you two perform is Joe Pantoliano's fear and paranoia and violence almost seems like a perfect counterpoint to what you guys do. Did you guys know he was going to do all that? Because there's a scene that sticks out to me when he finds out that the money's gone, and there's a teardrop that falls from his eye. You just feel his
I felt
intense
bad
fear.
for him, yeah.
Yeah. So did you guys rehearse that at all, or no?
I don't really remember rehearsing because we didn't have that much time. We probably rehearsed it right before the scene, but more technical, just where the cameras were. Do you
We
remember
had
rehearsing?
a week or a few days before where we talked about the scenes, but we weren't practicing. We weren't like rehearsing like you would do for a play or something. Yeah, basically, this is where I love directors. Good directors in Hollywood, I think they cast actors, and then they pretty much figure that they can do what they do and then, shape it a little bit. But we didn't, a lot of the stuff that Joey did, we didn't know that he was going to be doing it. When I'm looking at that film and there's like so much bodily fluids coming out of him, snot and saliva and sweat, I'm like, give that man an Oscar.
To answer your question, we didn't really, we rehearsed like on the day.
Question.
We have a question right here to your right, down in front.
Right front.
Oh, hi. So two brief questions. One, where do you think Corky and Violet went after they drove off with all the money? And two, Jennifer, have you ever or would you ever consider doing a podcast? Because I'd listen to it.
Good question.
She wouldn't even need people on it.
Right.
She just need herself.
It'd just be me. I would be asking questions and then answering them. Just me in a room babbling away. No, I think that it would be really kind of unhealthy for me to have a situation where I can just go talk on and on. But I did actually do a podcast with my ex-husband, Sam Simon. He had a vegan podcast. It was 2 hours long. And I was sort of taking care of him when he had terminal cancer. And he came back from the hospital, and he wanted me to be the first guest on his show. And I was like, Sam, are you sure you want to continue doing the show? He kind of wasn't in his right mind. but he really wanted to. And I came on the show, and he was like, "This girl is amazing." And I'm not a vegan. I don't know anything about vegan issues. And there was another fabulous guy on the show called Vegan Ari. And Sam said, "I want you to come on the show all the time." Because Sam was very sharp, but every once in a while his mind, from the illness would wander. And I'm really good at filling in the empty spots. So I would let him and Vegan Ari talk, and then when there was an empty spot, I would just fill it in. So I really enjoyed doing that podcast. I did it for about a year and a half. You can probably find it online. It's called The Sam Simon Show. And I'm the one not talking about vegan issues. And Sam, when I was taking care of him, I was really hungry because I don't really eat lettuce. And there was a guest house, and I was thinking, what can I put in the guest house that I can eat in emergency? And I found like a hard sausage, and I put it in the refrigerator. And when Sam wasn't being sick, he would prowl around the grounds to see what was going on. And he found this sausage in the refrigerator. Oh my God. Every week, first he said, "I found a sausage in the refrigerator." And the next week he was like, "Jennifer was curing sausages in the guest house." And then the week after that he said, "And then I opened the oven and there was a goat's head roasting in the oven." Like, pretty soon I was like Rocky boxing sides of meat in the guest house.
Well,
There you go. There's your podcast.
actually, and we have someone who's doing a podcast, Sam Fragoso, and I don't know what time you leave, but if you want to do a podcast here before you leave, we certainly have one for you.
I'm leaving first thing in the morning.
First thing.
I leave at 5 in the morning. I could do it tonight, though, before we leave. If he's here and he's got a microphone, I'm sure I could babble out a few sentences, quick 10-minute podcast.
And I just want to say something about the guy who just asked the question. His name is Mike Crowley, by the way, and he's the one who put the empathy video together.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Thank
Oh,
you,
yeah,
Mike.
that's a great
Thank you.
video. Good job. I like that.
Question?
On the floor, far left.
Question?
Floor, far left.
Floor left.
I see.
At yesterday's reception, when Chaz introduced you, you started to talk about Roger's influence on this film. And I know the crowd here always is interested in how Roger impacts the success of a film. Could you speak to that again in front of the big group?
Good question.
Well, simply when this movie came out, they didn't know how to market it because they're like, "Oh, how are we going to market this lesbian film?" So they really did a bad job, and it was basically out of the theaters in about a week, instead of just saying, "Oh, it's this noir, blah, 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 blah." And it was Roger, and I remember Liz Smith, just a handful, but I remember those two the most because they were very big, critics, and they were just like, "Where did this film go?" And they gave it such, you saw before the film that, Siskel and Ebert when they were talking and it really helped push it, like saying, where did this film go? And so, the review they wrote was incredible, and people obviously listened, and so it was really, so many times movies are just like, "Oh my God, the critics, they ruined our movie," because they gave it the thumbs down, but in this case, it was the critics that kind of were like, go see this movie.
Yeah, Roger really loved it. He championed it. He really talked up the film, and he got it. He understood that it was not a sort of quickie exploitation flick. He saw it was a classic film noir. He understood a lot of the structure and, what the Wachowskis were trying to do. He understood what it was, and I think it was in part due to Roger championing it that it never really went away. It became a cult film over the years, and a lot of films that Roger champions that the other critics are sort of like, no, have become very cult films and very celebrated after past their sell-by date. And so, we really always appreciated Roger. I loved seeing him when I went to Sundance and other film festivals. He was a true lover of film, and he always mentioned Bound and how much he loved it. And once I remember I was in a movie, and he was like, "Well, I'm not so crazy about that movie." I was at Toronto Film Festival for some film, I forget what it was, and he said, "But Bound, I loved Bound. That was a phenomenal film." But when he says, and this is why people love Roger and also Siskel, the two of them were so great together, especially when they were at loggerheads. But the thing that was great about him is that he was a little bit cantankerous at times, and he didn't always love everything. So you felt so special and appreciated when he did give you the thumbs up, and when he gave you the enthusiastic thumbs up or the big thumbs up.
And now we have a golden thumbs up.
A golden thumbs up. But we love Roger Ebert. He was such a gift to the film community.
Yeah, and thank
he
you
loved,
for having
He
us
loved
here.
film.
Question?
All right, got a question to you right here.
We're getting the one
Yes.
more.
Yes,
Make it a good one. I don't want
It's going to be a good one. I
Where are
promise.
you?
Jennifer,
Yes.
let's talk about your voice.
Uh-oh.
You put some serious sizzle on your voice in this. Where does this come? It's like a throwback to Marilyn Monroe or something.
I don't know. When I was watching the movie, I was like, oh my God, I whispered through the entire film. But I used to have, in the 80s, I had sort of a trick voice, and I would use it on Johnny Carson. And I don't know if I can do. I don't know what's really going on here, but I don't know. I'm just cute. That was the voice I used to use. But I felt like Violet was more grounded, so I felt like Violet should have like a throatier voice. So I think that that's where it came from. And Gina does a very good imitation of me doing Violet.
No, I mean, your voice was kind of down, more like, because I want to.
I was like, I mean, I love the way she says,
because I want to.
thank you.
Doing
Doing Jennifer.
My favorite line, one of my favorite lines is when Joey goes, "It's fucking dark in here." I say that every time I come in the house and turn on the light. I love how he said that line.
Well, we so happy to have you here tonight. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Chaz.
Thank you for having us
Thank you,
here.
Chuck, and
It's
thank
been
you,
really
Pam.
wonderful.
So great.
Thanks,
and thank you
Roger.
all
Hope
for
you're having
coming.
fun.
It's a wonderful film festival. You're lucky to have Chaz putting this together every year.
Thank you.
Thanks.